Hello, 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 Mosaic Souls. Hey, Mosaic Souls, this is Rachael Alexander, artist and spiritual teacher with Flair, aka Mosaic Soul Mentor. And today I wanted to talk about how to become proactive versus reactive in your life, dealing with money, dealing with relationships, and dealing with health. So these are like the three biggest areas that we as human beings usually struggle with. And a lot of times in our lives, we have a tendency to be very reactive to our lives and feel like we are victims and feel like that we are at effect to what's going on. And so in this video, I want to talk about the difference between being reactive versus proactive and the differences in those different types of energies and ways of being in the world, and why you might want to consider shifting your energy to being more proactive versus reactive. So I drew a little graphic here, and here we're just going to dive right into this content. Being proactive, when you think about being reactive, a lot of times we're giving things negative meanings, right? So in our lives, when life situations occur, we're actually giving things a negative meaning. So, something might happen to us and immediately we'll naturally attach negative meaning to it. So I'll just give it a recent example of something that just happened to me literally like on Christmas Day. But it's actually it's so funny when it happened to me. Even that phrase feels funny. When this situation occurred, I had nothing but a sense of peace and ease, and I wasn't really worried about it at all. So a recent thing happened. So I was out celebrating with my cousins for one of my cousin's birthday. His birthday's on Christmas Eve, and so we went out to a club or whatever, and we were dancing and having a good time or whatever. And long story short, someone popped the lock on my car and broke in and stole my purse and my wallet and my coat and stuff like that from the trunk of my car. And so usually I would be freaking out or whatever. Of course, you have to go through the regular human emotions of not human emotions, but human actions of canceling all my cards, making sure that I'm good financially, so that the person who stole my stuff won't be able to access, my accounts and all that good stuff. So of course I did all that, did the whole filing a police report, claiming it on my insurance and all that good stuff. But when it happened to me, when this situation arose, it was so funny. My initial reaction was definitely from a place of proactiveness, which is giving things a positive meaning. The immediate thought that came to me after having realized that someone had used my credit card, because that's how I actually ended up finding out that person made a small charge on one of my credit cards, and I made a phone call to shut it down. Immediately the thought came into my mind ooh, this is juicy. I wonder what this means. I wonder how I'm going to evolve, or what good thing is going to come out of this. That's immediately the meaning that I attached to it, versus the negative meaning that wanted to follow up just out of conditioning. But my soul is so present and my awareness is so present that immediately I began to think, oh well, something great is happening. Because if something like this is going to happen and going to arise and occur, this must mean that something great is happening. And just talking about it literally lights me up. So this situation, which a lot of people would say, oh, a lot of people did say, because anyways, a lot of people in my life will naturally say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Oh, that sucks. Oh, man, and immediately attach negative meaning to it. My soul and my inner reaction, my inner world is this place of excitement and excited expectations and anticipation of something good happening, right? So that's the difference between being proactive versus reactive. So the reactive version of that situation, right, would be freak out, go into meltdown mode. Oh my God, someone stole my stuff. Now I have to start all over. I have to get all my credit cards and stuff like that. It was on Christmas Day, so I didn't have access to my money or whatever, because the banks were closed and all that stuff. I had to, reach out to friends and family, have them help me, to make sure that I was good as far as food and all that good stuff for the day, right? So So it's funny, like you could go into meltdown mode in that situation, or you can actually go into uh, positive expectation, right? And it takes, I can't say it takes a while. Look, I don't know. I feel like it's a grace from your higher self. The more that you cultivate awakening, the more that you have shifted your energy, and the more that you do this kind of inner work and self-reflection, the more you start to have this sort of inner anticipation, like nothing really phases you. I talk about that in that video. I'll link it up, where you permanently get off the worry train about anything in life. So that's a situation, right? Like, and the difference of just kind of giving you this real life world situation of how to be proactive versus reactive. Let's move on. So the difference in the energy of being proactive versus reactive: when you're being reactive, you're taking action from fear or self-doubt or anxiety, right? So when you're being reactive, like you're in a mode of fear, you're scared, and so you're actively taking action. This the first example that pops into my mind is if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing, like, I had a recent client call, and she was just in this place of reactivity, where she was just doing all these things because she had believed, she subscribed to a reality that said that she had to do X, Y, Z in strategy in order to be successful in her business. And because her soul literally wasn't really in alignment with all that. She wasn't really creating the results that she wanted. So her inner world wasn't in alignment with the vision that she had received for what she wanted to create in her life. Therefore, she kept miscreating and creating a lot of strife and anxiety and fear and anger and resentment and all this stuff, because she wasn't in her internal world, wasn't in alignment with her desired outcome, right? And so she's taken a lot of action out of fear. And we've all been there in every era, from different, everybody struggles with different areas of their life. Some of you, it might be health. Some of you, it might be finances and all that good stuff. It might be multiple areas. Sometimes, different stage of your life, it might be multiple areas. Some of you, it might be your relationships, right? So that's like one of the key things of differentiating between being reactive versus proactive. And being proactive, you're taking action from love, joy, and certainty, right? So when you're taking action when you're being proactive in your life, you're moving from a place of inner knowing, inner understanding, and just kind of, you're already resonating at the level of your soul and inner world. Your emotions, your thoughts are in alignment with that which you desire. So even if something happens, like for that situation where someone stole my purse, I'm like, oh, well, this must mean that something's great's gonna happen. I'm sitting there excited, like, I wonder what's gonna happen. Like, I'm excited. Something great is gonna happen from this, right? So you're moving from that state of being versus this state of being like, oh no, something bad has happened, something worse is even gonna happen, or da-da-da-da, right? So the mind, you're shifting from, the mind of fear versus the mind of love, right? And then your actions then follow. You're shifting from the mind and the emotions of fear to love. And I talk about that in my Fear to Love challenge as well. So that's the difference in the energy and even the actions that arise. What place is your actions arising from when you're taking action, whether that's in your life, in your career, in your business, in your health, in your relationships? And so I wanted to go ahead and start talking about some examples. Let's start with the reactive examples, right? So let's talk about money, a money example. A lot of times with money, right, we'll immediately go into wanting to hoard, right? Like a lot of times that actually the whole scarcity, fear-based action can arise in many different ways in each of these things. And these examples, I'm just giving one example, right? So like an example of a reactive way of approaching life with money would be saving but not investing, right? So you're hoarding, saving for a rainy day, and let's say you're you don't even necessarily need to be an entrepreneur to invest, right? So you're saving, but you are not investing. So you're not taking any quote unquote risk. The whole idea of risk is really hilarious to me. When you know who you truly are, the idea of risk really just seems laughable, because it's like we're creating everything on the planet. And so even the idea of taking a risk or jumping in or diving in, taking a leap of faith feels like really silly, because it's like we're creating our reality. So how could anything be a risk? Like, it's just another experience. There's no such thing as failure. So there can't really be a risk. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny. But anyways, so saving without investing in the money example, right? So an opposite example in the proactive stage in that sense is investing to grow your money, right? So let's say that you set aside 10% of your income every month and you start to save it towards, so that you can start investing in something that will actually allow your money to grow, right? Like, this is something that I'm just now starting to implement in my life, right? Where you're coming from this, instead of just hoarding money and just saving and setting it aside for a rainy day. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Anything I say is, feel free to flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't. I don't think there's anything wrong with having emergency fund or anything like that. But I also am starting to adopt the belief in having fun playing with the idea of investing in things to allow your money to work for you. So that's a difference, like in like the money example. Another reactive thing is, yeah, I'll just end there with the money. So let's move on to health, right? So a lot of times in health, people will do like, you know, especially around this time of day, the holiday times, is they'll do quick fixes. Like, I'm going to just do a quick detox or whatever to detox all the stuff that I just ate the other day, because it's making me feel sluggish and so I'll do a quick detox, or doing over the counter drugs, like, immediately going and trying to do over the counter drugs, because usually what happens is we've done something up until that point that wasn't necessarily in alignment with our bodies. We're not in tune with our body's internal like wisdom, and so we're not tapped into what our body actually needs and wants, and so we end up doing things like over-the-counter drugs and stuff like that, or quick fixes. Really, quick fixes would be a reactive kind of energetic move in your life, right, where you're trying to do a quick fix to fix what you to previously undone. Like, when especially when people like we have the power to like heal ourselves literally in an instant, but a lot of times, you know, it depends on where you are energetically, where your inner world and your belief system is, where your subconscious programming is, as to whether or not you can allow that quick fix to happen. So let's say you take up a slower path of thing like detoxing. Like, sometimes people want a quick fix to undo 30 years of damage or 40 years of damage that they've been putting on their body from doing drugs or drinking or smoking and eating crappy food. And then immediately, you know, they realize that they can't get away with it anymore. And then they want a quick fix. Give me a drug, give me a pill so I can feel better, right? And even though we can shift our energy to like switching to a healthier way of being, sometimes because of our conditioning, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for us to shift and for that change to become permanent. So like I said, it really depends on where you are energetically. So a proactive version of health in this instance would be daily healthy eating habits, weekly fitness routines, and being really consistent with just taking care of yourself, right? Like, health not only is just not the food you eat, but doing mental health, right? Like, making sure that you are taking care of your mental health and you're dealing with your emotions, you're experiencing your emotions, you're allowing your emotions to arise and dissipate, and transmuting old emotions versus letting emotions get stuck in different places of your body and allowing disease to arise, right? So that would be a proactive way of dealing with your health versus a reactive, which is quick fixes and all that kind of stuff. So that's the whole health example. Let's move on to relationships example. So in a reactive example would be blowing up, right? Like harboring ill emotions or lying or like just holding on to grudges and stuff like that, and not dealing, like if you're in an intimate relationship or have a partner, you're not dealing with your emotions. So you're not talking, you're not speaking up, or you're holding on to things or lying and stuff like that, and then eventually you blow up or something when something finally triggers you, even though it's been something that's been building up over time. So blowing up in that sense, right? Like someone pisses you off, and then this person has been doing something that has been triggering you all this time, but finally you've reached your edge and you've blown up into their face, right? Instead of that situation, a proactive version of that would be where you are you have healthy communication and honesty, and you take self-responsibility. So if someone is doing something that is triggering for you, or that is disrespectful or crossing a boundary, instead of harboring ill emotions and holding on to stuff and not talking about it, you have healthy communication. You have those quote unquote difficult conversations that might be uncomfortable. You have honesty, and you're honest about how you're feeling. You're honest, and then you take self-responsibility. So you're not necessarily blaming the person for what has happened, but you are actually saying, when you do that, this brings up this in me. Maybe we can compromise on, and you're just having healthy, positive communication and reinforcement in your relationships, right? So those are like the difference between being proactive versus reactive in your life. And I just kind of wanted to give these examples to show you how this shows up in our lives, so that you can kind of understand and go from giving negative meaning to life situations to positive meaning, and moving from fear, self-doubt, and worry and anxiety to love, joy, and certainty, and knowing that you are a divine being. You're the one creating your own reality, and you can allow what you desire by shifting. And so this brings me into actually a course that I'm going to be launching soon. I've been working on this course. It's been kind of like a divine download, actually. But it's all about moving from your inner world to your outer world. A lot of times we are, and this has been brought up in a book also known Power versus Force. A lot of times what will happen is we go from trying to take a lot of action, force, a lot of masculine energy where we're just active. And although action is a beautiful thing, it can be warped, and you end up miscreating a lot because you're not embodying and bringing in the feminine, which is your inner world, right? Being aware of how you feel, what you think, what you are believing in that moment, right? When your thought connects to emotion, then turns into belief, then turns into expectation, and you are then looking for proof outside of your life to confirm your belief, right? So the shift then happens from going from doing and hoping, where you're hoping that if I take this action, that this action will lead to my desired outcome, to a place of knowing and being, where you've shifted to it's already done. I don't really have to, there's not much efforting I need to do other than follow my highest excitement in any given moment. And it will manifest because you already are coming from a place of inner knowing of how the universe works. You already know that what you desire already exists, and you simply need to be in vibrational alignment with it in order to allow it into your life. So that is how you become proactive versus reactive in your life. I'm super excited to be talking about this and really making this huge shift versus going from your outer world and taking massive action and stuff like that, then versus moving from your inner world, that inner knowing and being, where you're embodying this version of yourself, where you've shifted your identity from this person who's a victim and who's at effect to what's going on in your life, to a person of knowing and a person of certainty and a person of just knowing that what you desire already exists. So what else do you got to do, right? Like, other than follow your highest excitement, right? And follow your bliss, right? Follow that inner compass, that intuition that's already naturally there. So that is all I wanted to share in this video. As I always say, flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because you are divine. You are a divine being, and your soul knows exactly what you have come to embody and experience in your life. So as always, vibrate higher and have a wonderful day. Peace, love, and light.